Thoughts on Rice's performance? I think it's kind of unfair how he's being attacked for essentially not being Rodri. He's doing literally all of the defensive work in that midfield by himself. Yeah, I hear that, right? This is why for me, when James McClean said that thing the other day, I disagreed with the world-class bit because for me, world-class is a rubbish word. It has no definition. And saying a player is world-class means literally nothing because one person's definition of world-class could be completely different to another player's definition of world-class. So you're arguing semantics in that sense. But I did kind of hear him when he was saying like, oh, Rice is not really somebody who's going to control the tempo and turn beyond like the half turn with the ball and like play those dangerous line splitting passes. Like that's not his game. However, what he is really good at is something that not many players are in that position and of that size as well too, right? Carrying the ball forward, he's one of the best in the world. And breaking a play, he's one of the best in the world. Who did I just describe there? I think Rice is a lesser version of this player, but I just described N'Golo Kante. N'Golo Kante was not controlling games from deep. N'Golo Kante was not splitting lines of his passes. N'Golo Kante was not like, he has his own strengths. And I think N'Golo Kante is better than Rice, but you still have to play these players. It's like you're making a puzzle, right? The overall goal is to have a puzzle that works, that fits. It's not to just like put all of your favorite pieces on the board. So Rice is a piece of a puzzle. If he's not the controller, you put a controller next to him. Problem solved. Andrea Pirlo, guys, was a liability defensively for Italy. The guy couldn't move. He couldn't run. Physically, he'd get out-muscled. But his skill, his asset, just like Rice's breaking up and winning the ball and carrying it forward, Pirlo's asset was being one of the most inventive, creative passers, both short and long in the game. His set pieces, brilliant. His vision, brilliant. It's not a case of like, oh, let's not play Pirlo or Pirlo's the problem because he can't do this. What do you do to complete the puzzle? You put players around him that will bring their own strengths while also minimizing his weaknesses. You put a Gattuso right next to him. You put an Ambrosini right next to him. You put a De Rossi in the national team right next to him. All of a sudden, Pirlo's weaknesses are not nullified, but they're minimized a little bit because other guys will take care of that side of the game for him. So yes, Rice is not a first phase dictator. Rice is not a line splitting magician of a passer like a Verratti, for example. But what he is good at, he's one of the best in the world at that. So what's the solution? It's not to take out Rice or to say Rice can't do this. It's to bring players around him. Like, for example, that's what Arteta did. Arteta knows that Rice is not like some guy who's going to be averaging 1,000 touches of the ball and blasting passes into Saka's feet from vertical angle. Like, he's not that kind of player. So what do? You bring in a Jorginho who can do that side of the game. You bring in a Thomas Partey who can do that side of the game. Odegaard is in that area. The issue of England is you're putting Declan Rice next to Trent, who's also not a high volume passer or doesn't get a lot of high volume touches on the ball. And you're putting next to a Jude Bellingham, who in my opinion is at his best when he's kind of carrying the ball forward, just like Rice, and also appearing in the final third. In my opinion, to get the best out of Rice, you have to put a guy like Wharton or a guy like Hobby next to him in this England team. I don't think there's any other solution. Otherwise, you're always going to have these question marks about Declan Rice. But guys, I hate to break it to you, no player is perfect. Every player has a flaw in their game. Just the same way as I was saying Kane, his playmaking is overrated, but he's a really good outlet passer. Somebody who I think is a brilliant playmaker might have weaknesses in his game that Kane doesn't. But the point is, you have to complete the perfect puzzle. And no puzzle piece is perfect on its own, right? You can't complete a puzzle by having one puzzle piece. You have to put him around other puzzles. So I think Rice, yeah, I agree with what people are saying in terms of on the half turn, he's not the easiest on the eye. He's not going to be controlling games from deep. He's not going to be the first phase of build-up on his own. But what he's going to bring you is worth having him in your team enough. Now the point is minimizing his weaknesses. And in my opinion, that comes with playing Manu next to him or an Adam Wharton next to him. That's my view on it. Like Kroos and Andrick right now. It's a perfect balance. Andrick is not a perfect midfielder, but right now he looks amazing because he's next to Toni Kroos. And Kroos, likewise, bro. I remember when Kroos, do you guys remember the game where City destroyed Real Madrid last season, or the season that just went before this current one, when City destroyed Real Madrid 4-0, and Kroos played one of the Kroos, Modric, and who else was in midfield? It might have been Fede. They got absolutely ran over by Manchester City. They ran them over in midfield. Kroos and Modric were destroyed physically, but it was natural. Kroos was playing as a DM. Modric had no protection. That's where you bring in a Casemiro, who we always said at United, look, passing wise, he's horrible. Casemiro is an awful tempo setter. He's awful at controlling games. Like, he has no patience on the ball. But what's he good at? He has these amazing long diagonal passes and destroying and collecting the ball and winning it back and playing it off to those other guys. He's exceptional at it. He's one of the best of all time at doing that. You take Casemiro away from that, and you take so Kroos without Casemiro and Casemiro without Kroos. They need each other. So that's why you bring a Tchouaméni in for Kroos, and for Casemiro, you obviously have someone next to him. So that's kind of, I hope what I'm saying is kind of making sense. Everybody needs somebody. Unless you're Messi. Yeah, unless you're like Messi, bro, who can basically do everything by himself. Or like Neymar, who can do everything by himself. Every player has a flaw. It's just about minimizing that flaw and also maximizing his strength.